Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Willie's Baseball Treasure. Hey, Willie, are you going to the Super Sports Show this weekend? Willie Teller was playing catch with his friend Chris. He tossed the baseball to Chris's glove and asked, "What sports show?" "It's a sports collector's show," Chris answered. He caught the ball and tossed a low one. You know, where people buy and sell rare or famous sports things. Willie caught it on the first bounce and threw it high up in the air towards Chris. "That's right, I remember now. Before he left town yesterday, my dad said we might take his baseball to show. He has a ball signed by Joe Girardo. He's going to give it to me one of these days." Chris froze. The ball hit his glove and bounced out. "What? Did you say it was signed by Joe Girardo? He was one of the best players ever. That's a real treasure. It must be worth a lot of money." Willie smiled big. Later, at home, he saw the red telephone answering machine light blinking. He pushed the button and listened as his dad's voice spoke. "Willie, listen carefully because this is important. I need you to do something for me. The next time you and your mom go to town, get my baseball. You know, the one on the shelf in my room, and take it to Shorty's sports shop. Give it to Shorty behind the counter and tell him it's from me. Thanks. I'll be home soon." I wonder why he wants me to do that, Willie thought. He took the ball off the shelf and looked at Joe Girardo's signature. I hope Dad hasn't forgotten his promise to give it to me someday. "Mom, why does Dad want me to take this ball to that store?" Willie asked on the way there. "I don't know," she answered. "He didn't tell me, but I need to go to the flower shop next door, so I'll just let you go in and drop the ball off." Willie rolled in and stared at the posters and pennants on the walls. Wow, he thought, this place has stuff about football, basketball, baseball, everything. He got in line in front of the cash register and listened to the people in front of him. "What have you got there?" the short man behind the counter asked a teenager. That must be Shorty, Willie thought. "These baseball cards," the kid answered. "How much are they worth?" Shorty looked them over carefully. Then he said, "I'll give you $1 for each one." He handed over the money, and the kid walked away. A man showed Shorty a signed photograph of a football player. "I'll give you $10, Shorty said. Willie was next, but he backed away. "Shorty buys sports things from people," he said to himself. "Dad didn't want me to sell the ball, did he?" As he rolled down the aisle, Willie argued with himself. "Dad wouldn't sell this ball. He promised it to me. But Dad did say to bring it here and give it to Shorty. Why would he do that?" Willie tried to think of reasons why. Maybe Dad doesn't know how much money it's worth. Or maybe he really needs the money for something. That made him feel a little scared. Maybe Dad doesn't really want me to have the treasure. That made him feel sad. Maybe Dad doesn't think I would take care of it. He almost felt angry at that idea. He rolled back toward the counter. "Sure," he heard Shorty say, "we buy and sell almost anything." Willie rolled right past him and out the door. "Hey," his mom said, "I thought you were going to leave the ball at the store." "I just couldn't, Mom," Willie said. "It's worth a lot of money. I can't just give it to Shorty." Mrs. Teller nodded slowly. "But I heard your dad's message, too. He said to bring it here and give it to Shorty. He must have had a good reason for it." "Are you sure?" Willie asked. "He's your father, Willie. What do you think?" Willie turned and rolled slowly back into the store. "I guess Dad knows what he's doing. I sure don't. But it's what he said to do, so he must have a reason." "My name is Willie Teller," Willie said to Shorty. "My dad said to give this to you." He held up the ball. "Teller," Shorty mumbled. "Oh, yes, your dad's baseball." He took the ball and examined it closely. "It's beautiful. Here, give this envelope to your dad." With that, Shorty took the ball away, and Willie rolled sadly out to the car. His mind was whirling with questions, but he didn't say a word all the way home. That Sabbath in the shoebox, Mrs. Shue talked about Abraham. Abraham trusted God's voice, even when that voice told him to sacrifice Isaac. Abraham didn't want to do it, but he was willing to give up what he valued most, his son, because he believed that God knew best. I know a little about how that feels, Willie thought as he listened. Dee Dee asked, "Mrs. Shue, why did Abraham trust God?" Mrs. Shue smiled. Abraham knew God well enough to believe that God had a good plan, whatever it was. He chose to trust in God. Maybe I should do that about Dad's ball, Willie thought. In just a flash, he made up his mind. Then he closed his eyes. God, Willie prayed, help me to trust Dad about his baseball, and to trust you the way Abraham did. Amen. For some reason, Willie felt pretty good. By the time they picked up Mr. Teller at the airport that night, Willie had almost forgotten about the ball. It seemed that his dad had forgotten too, because no one mentioned the ball at all. Willie, are you ready to go? Mr. Teller called from the kitchen the next day. Go where? Willie asked. To the Super Sports Show, Mr. Teller said. Where did you put the envelope Shorty gave you? It has our tickets. Willie handed it over without any questions. Once they got to the show, he forgot about the baseball and enjoyed looking at all the exhibits with his dad. Then a voice called out to them. Hey, Teller, over here! It was Shorty. Willie felt his heart sink. Mr. Teller got a big smile on his face. Shorty, did you get the ball? Mr. Teller asked. Shorty nodded and stepped aside so they could see. There, inside a clear glass globe, was the ball. A gold plaque underneath it said, Signed by Joe Girardo. Willie almost didn't notice that. He was busy staring at the sign on the wall behind it. That sign said, Owned by Willie Teller, not for sale. You weren't worried about the ball, were you? Mr. Teller asked. I wanted to surprise you, so I'm glad you did just what I told you to. Do you like it? He knelt down beside his son. Willie answered him with a hug. It's my favorite treasure, Willie said, and I wasn't worried, not after I decided to trust you.
The story you have heard today is from the Shoebox Kids Bible Stories, written by Jerry D. Thomas and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.